Hey everyone, thank you for joining me for tonight's topic. As you can see, if you did watch the preview for tonight, we're going to be discussing tacky tactics used for Black voters. And there is a video that I want to show you guys before we get into the topic. A lot of people have different opinions about this video. I personally feel that this video is indicative of how we see ourselves in the community, but I'm going to go ahead and try to keep up the video. After that, we can discuss it and you guys let me know what you think about it. Again, I have my certain perspective on it, but I would like to know what you all think. Again, tonight, the lines will be open. Of course, the chat box is always open, so please share your thoughts, share the video, like. If you're new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. So let me go ahead and attempt to share my screen and just play this quick clip of the video. It is, I believe this is a Democratic ad to get people to go ahead and vote. But I'm just going to go ahead and play it. And again, you guys let me know what you think about it. Having just a little bit of trouble here, but I'm going to go ahead and attempt to share it again. I'm not quite sure why it's not allowing me to share my screen, but just give me a second. I'm going to try one more time. Great. When I want to show the video is when it wants to give me problems and not allow me to share my screen. I don't know what's going on with this, guys. I wanted to show you guys the ad. Let me go ahead and see if I can get this. Give me a second. So this is I believe, a Democratic ad. I'm going to go ahead and play it. You guys can let me know in the comment section if you can hear it. Get your booty to the pole, 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 yeah.
Did we get your attention? Good. So, you really not gonna vote? You know it's more than just the president on the ballot, right? Check it. A district attorney decides to prosecute, including whether or not to go after dirty cops. You know who elected the DA? We do, but you don't want to vote. Can't make it rain if you lock up on some bullshit. Want trades and coding partner schools? Then vote for the school boards that will prepare us for the job market. Want an in-cash bill? Sheriffs and county officials that feel the same way you do. But you come out, they gonna be shouting. The first black man. You know how that happened? Don't matter to some of the current elected officials. If they matter to you, don't let others decide who's gonna run your people. Get your booty to the pole. Get your booty to the pole. Get your booty to the pole. For information on how, as well as resources to find out who's running where you live, go to getyourbootitothepole.com. Okay, guys, so you guys let me know what you think about that.
Two Samsung Galaxy S20 FE 5G phones.
Honestly, like I said before, I feel like That, that ad is insulting to me, and the reason that it's insulting to me is because
I'm calling Jost. Well, 2020, we've got moves. This news was a lot for us to process a day before we came back on the air. So fast.
Okay, guys, I'm sorry about that. As I was saying, I feel like that video is, that ad or whatever it is. I feel like it is embarrassing, and honestly, I I don't want to really come at the young ladies in the video because I honestly feel like they're coming from a place of their own understanding, and I think that it is indicative of how we view ourselves, how we view black men, and again, um, I'm hearing feedback. You guys let me know if you hear feedback. If you're in the chat, go ahead and let me know if you hear feedback. I'm hearing an echo. I'm not sure if you guys hear that, but if you do hear it in the chat, just let me know if you're hearing the echo. I'm getting some feedback here. But like I was saying, I don't necessarily want to come at the young ladies in that ad because I personally feel like they're coming from their own level of understanding. They're coming from a place of how they see the community. And I think that it's very sad that when it comes to Black society, that sometimes we're viewed as the children. Like, we're all adults, and I honestly feel like the ad is very childish. I think that to how Black men, so seeing Black men as people who are not very serious people, because let's just be honest, I honestly feel that the ad is geared toward Black men. As you can see in the video, they're kind of mocking Black men a little bit. And I don't think that they're doing this coming from a place of malice. Again, I feel like they're coming from their place of understanding and their perspective on how they see Black men in the community. And again, I feel that because of the lack of leadership and different behaviors that we see from certain Black men in the community, is how this ad would be possible, and people wouldn't feel any type of way about presenting this to Black men. Because again, this ad to me is geared toward Black men. It's trying to get Black men to go out and vote in a very tacky and tasteless fashion. And I think that if I was a Black man, I would be very offended by this. As a Black woman, I'm embarrassed that anybody would even put this together and try to market this to Black men, because I honestly feel that this is being geared toward getting Black men to go out and vote. And again, it's really embarrassing. And I think that the way we see ourselves in the community, I feel like this particular ad speaks volumes that people really take Black men seriously. And obviously, not all Black men, just in general, I feel that this particular ad couldn't have even been put together if people didn't feel that Black men needed, you know, almost a childlike way to get them to go out and vote. And voting, for us in the community is something that we all do take relatively serious. So this was very clownish to me. And I feel like, Black men are intelligent people. So, by and large, Black men are intelligent people, and they don't really need flashing lights and women shaking their behind all over the place to get them to go out and vote. Yes, there may be a segment of Black men in society that may fall into this. But in general, I feel like this was very tactless. I feel like it was distasteful, and I feel like it was almost demeaning to black men in a way. Because again, black men don't need flashing lights and women sliding up and down the road to get them to go out and vote. It's something that we always do in the community, whether or not it benefits us or not. We usually get out and vote. But the thing that was most shocking to me about this whole thing, because we see this every election cycle, we see that the politicians come around, they think that they can get our votes by going to church, by dancing, singing, and basically goofing around with us. So it was very, in a way, it was kind of hurtful for me to see us doing it for ourselves because we get so much of this when it's time to vote. The politicians come into our community. They really don't have any tangible agenda for our community. A lot of times they come around and they sing and dance and they play with us. And a lot of times that's enough to get us roused up to go out and vote. So seeing us do this to ourselves, it was embarrassing to me. I was humiliated by it and I didn't like it. But again, I'm not really coming down on the women in that commercial because, like I said before, I honestly feel like they're coming from their own perspective of the community and they did what they felt was necessary to get people. But when you think about it, it's really sad that they even felt that ad was appropriate to get black men's attention to go out and vote. Um, it's it's really embarrassing, and I just don't understand why anybody would feel that that is appropriate to do. Like I said before, a lot of times when it's time to go out and vote in the community, um, the politicians they come through our neighborhoods. They don't offer us anything that really benefits us, and they still get our loyal support. And when I say this, I'm mainly talking about the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has been going back and forth through the Black community for several decades. They've been able to get us to go out and vote without really offering us too much of anything. And you know, I feel like ads like this only add fuel to the fire. It doesn't make our community look very serious. If we are playing around and we have ads like this out here, then it's very hard for us to demand that we be taken serious by the politicians if we feel that these types of ads are appropriate for us to get people to go out and vote. I remember years ago when Hillary Clinton was running for president, the time that she was running against Donald Trump. And she had a meeting with Roland Martin. And at the end of the meeting, when they were talking, they got up and danced together. And a lot of people were repulsed by that because they say that every time it's time to get Black people to get out and vote, people come through our community acting like it's a big party. And then when we bring up conversations about, well, what is your agenda for the Black community? You have people fumbling and bumbling and basically saying that down policies will help the Black community, but nothing specific for us. I think that that's something that we need to pay attention to, especially when it comes to the Democratic Party, because as I was saying before, for so long, the Democratic Party um, has been getting nothing but loyal support from the Black community, and they're not really doing anything tangible for our community. So I don't know how many people remember when Kamala Harris was running for president, and she was questioning about what is her Black agenda for the community, and she flat out said that she's not going to have an agenda that is just specifically for Black people. And that really bothers me because every time the Black community comes to the forefront when we are in a position something done for us, we have people saying to us that they can't do anything specifically for our community. But when you think about it, especially when Barack Obama was president, he had an agenda for the LGBTQ community, and he made sure that what was on that agenda was pushed through. And the LGBT community got what it was that they were demanding. So, it's very troubling to me, and it's agitating that when the Black community comes up and they say, this is what we'd like to see done in our community, everybody tells us that, we'll be able to benefit from policies that help all people. But if you pay attention, majority of those policies that are trickle down policies, Black people by and large get the smallest portion of those policies, and our communities remain in shambles every election cycle. It seems like every election cycle we're asking for the same things or facing the same problems. For example, every election cycle, you hear Black society saying that there needs to be policies put in place to tackle income inequality, the wealth gap, the problems with education, housing, you know, any and everything that you can think of that would benefit us and give us a better quality of life. No matter how much we vote, it seems like every election cycle we're faced with the same issues. We're faced with asking for the same policies to be put into place that we asked for the last election cycle. But for some reason, every time it's time to vote, we're told we need to get out there and vote because we need to let our voices be heard. If we don't vote, we don't count. Our ancestors died for us to vote. This is stuff that we're hearing over and over again, but we're letting our voices be heard. We're going out there, we're voting, and we're met with the same issue every election cycle where we are asking for these things to be done. And it seems as if no one is hearing our voices. My question is, how many times do we have to let our voices be heard before people actually start listening to us? We get out there every election cycle in large numbers and we vote, and we mainly vote Democratic. Democratic Party for the past 50, 60 years has been using benign neglect toward the Black community. And for those of you who are familiar with what benign neglect is, you know that this is something that was put in place during the Nixon administration, where they basically said that if they don't talk about the problems, then they don't have to deal with them. They don't make promises to the Black community, and they don't offer them anything tangible. So Black society will continue to vote, but there won't be an expectation to actually receive anything because nothing is actually being promised. The only thing that we see being promised throughout the election cycle is hope and change, things that don't really have any tangible backing behind it, because hope, change, and all those things are just ideas. And Black people have been hoping, wishing, and praying for change for decades and decades and decades in this country. And as a result of that, we're still facing the same issues every election cycle where our needs are not being met. We're getting the smallest piece of the pie, the leftovers after every other community has been taken care of. So I honestly feel like we need to examine how it is that we vote, what we allow to happen to us. Again, like I said with that ad, I feel that it was very disparaging to me because again, we see the politicians come into our community and do these things to us every election cycle. So it's not really that surprising to me when they come into the community and they can do a little dance and say a few things to us to make us feel good, and then move on, and we never hear or see from them again until the election cycle is coming back around. But for us to see ourselves try to garner support for people to get out there and vote in such a childlike and childish way, it was very frustrating to me because I feel as though we could get so much more done if we send serious messages to these politicians. But if we're going to be goofing off and allowing them to come in and laugh and joke around, then that's what we're going to continue to get. We're not going to get anything tangible from these politicians. They're not going to feel like they have to do anything for us. Our community is going to remain in shambles. And at the end of the day, I honestly feel like we're not really going to have anyone to blame but ourselves after a while, because you have to keep in mind that people are going to do to you what you allow them to do to you. So, again, if we fail to take ourselves seriously as a community with ads like this, then that's going to send a message to the politicians that, you know, these people are not serious. If you continue with the singing and dancing and the empty promises to the community, and they'll continue to come out here and line up and vote for us without receiving anything in return. If you're in the chat room, can you please let me know if you hear me? I seen a message. Looks like it looks like there's some people who can't hear me. So if you can't hear me, please just put that you can hear me in the chat box. Um, just give me 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. I just want to make sure the audio is okay because I can hear myself fine, but I don't know if you guys can hear me. So if you can hear me, just go ahead and type in the chat box that you can hear, so I can know that I'm not talking to myself. I've been talking for about 20 minutes and I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. Um, Someone is saying that the phone lines are busy. The phone line is open. I The phone line is open. So if you're trying to call, I would suggest that you try again, because the phone line is open and I am taking calls. So if you're trying to call, the number to call in is 786-259-1295. The number is 786-259-1295. Um, if you're trying to call in, go ahead and dial that number. The phone lines are open. I'm not sure why it is that people are saying the phone lines are busy, but they are open. So you can go ahead and call. Again, the live chat is also up. So if you have anything that you want to add to the conversation, you can go ahead and add it in the chat box. Also, the phone lines are open. So if you're having trouble, please call in. The phone line is open. Um, I don't want to move on to the next thing that I wanted to discuss before that caller who was trying to call in. If you want to go ahead and try to call back in, because there is something else that I wanted to get into before I end the live stream. So you can go ahead and call again before I move on. But again, getting back to the situation with the video and how I feel as though the video was very childish. But one thing that I will say about it is that, again, I feel like these women were just using how they view the community as a means to get people to come out and vote. And again, I do feel like this video was geared toward Black men. And one thing that I really would like to say to Black men is that um, the, the reason that people, feel it that way and why someone would think that it's okay to make a video like that is because what you guys have to understand is that society at large looks at the conditions of the Black community, and whether you like it or not, that's going to fall on the backs of Black men because people look to men to be leaders of communities. So when people look at the Black community and they see how there is a certain level of dysfunction within the community, there's a lack of organization in the community, they're looking toward Black men. And if they see that Black men are not coming into that leadership role and getting everybody on board so that we can have an agenda and so that we can look like a serious community, this is going to be the result of what you see. Because those women were responding to what they see in the community and their view of how they look at Black men. And it's very sad that they felt like that video was appropriate to market Black men to get them to come out and vote. Again, like I was saying, I feel like when when people look at Black men as a whole, a lot of times they don't really see a serious group of men. And that would be ultimately the reason why they would feel like an ad like that would be appropriate to market to you. So my thing is, you know, what is it that you feel needs to be done in order to improve the conditions of the community and pretty much change the perspective on how the women of the community are looking at you and how society is looking at you as a whole. And I know a lot of people might be saying, why is she coming at the Black men in this way? Well, the reason that I'm coming at the Black men is because, again, when society as a whole looks at our community, they usually examine where the men are in society. And a lot of times, especially with these politicians, when they come through the community, they bring up, the men of the community because, again, they look at men as the leaders of the community, and they kind of do these songs and dances and they play around, and they know that there is not much that is being required of them because the men of our community are not really pushing the envelope in that direction to where they're making it known that our community needs this and that, and you're not going to get our votes unless you provide something tangible to the community. And a lot of times, when you see certain men coming up to the forefront to do that, they're kind of blacklisted by other men who are just looking to, get caught in these politicians to put themselves in certain position, which again speaks to the disorganization of the community. And when politicians come to the community and see this, they know that there's not much to be done in order to get us to come out there. One moment, guys. Again, they know there isn't much to be done to get us to come out there and vote. And it's embarrassing to me. And I know that there's a lot of people that probably feel the same way that I feel. When they see that it's time to vote, the politicians, they come through our community and they see us as equal targets. They see us as the low hanging fruit that they don't really have to provide anything for. And I feel like that's getting very old. And I feel as though it's time for us to take ourselves a lot more seriously. And we're going to use voting as a tool to benefit our community. We need to be taking it a lot more seriously. We don't need to tell each other that we need to get out there and vote simply just to vote. We need to have an agenda in place that is going to benefit our community. Like I was saying before, every election cycle, we go out there and we vote, and our votes really don't garner anything tangible for our community. There's no reason why, after all these years of the Black community voting, we're still facing some of the same issues that we were facing decades ago. Again, we've been asking for these things to be done every election cycle, and by and large, we're still facing the same issues, and we think that it's acceptable for us to continue to vote. And, like I said, our votes don't have anything tangible behind them. So if someone is seeing that you're going to continue to give constant support and have constant loyalty to the voting system and you're not getting anything from it, they don't really have an incentive to offer you. Again, as I was saying, if we're not going to take the voting process serious, then I feel like we need to stop telling people to get out there. Because voting is not just an exercise. When other communities vote, they're looking at what it is that their community is going to benefit from that vote. And for a very long time, as a community, we have not been doing that. So when politicians come through the community and they see that all they have to do is make us feel good, then again, they're not going to offer us anything for our votes. And I feel like we've been shooting ourselves in the foot for many, many generations now because we're excited with just having the right to vote and being able to, as people say, make our voices be heard. But again, how many times are we going to let our voices be heard but not benefit anything from it? And that's why I don't tell people not to vote. I don't try to discourage people from voting. But every time someone tells me that they're going to vote, I ask them, what is it that you feel that you would be doing in your vote in? And a lot of people, they get upset by that because they say, well, if you don't vote, you don't count. And honestly, if you're voting and you're not getting anything from it, then your vote doesn't count anyway. It's like you just went out there to participate in something that you're not benefiting. And I can't drive that point home enough because, again, we're getting into arguments with each other. We're telling each other that we need to vote, we need to vote, we need to vote. And again, nobody has a plan in place to let us know what we're going to be getting from our votes. Another thing is that we've been having a lot of loyalty to the Democratic Party. And I think that we are doing ourselves a great disservice by having constant loyalty to the Democratic Party because we're not even considering what the other parties have to offer. I just seen a message coming in the chat, so I'm going to go over that really quickly. Urban Country Films said, we as Black men need to stand up because regardless of how anyone feels, we lead our community and we have led it to shit is what I think he's trying to say. When it comes to leadership in the community, especially as it relates to getting tangibles from the politicians, I feel like again, the politicians, they come into the community and they laugh it up and they giggle it up with the men of the community, especially the ones who say they are in leadership positions, but they're not really demanding anything from these politicians. And what they're doing is they're getting things for themselves and they're not really thinking about the community as a whole. And I feel like the politicians are paying attention to our behavior. So we have to take responsibility and we have to hold ourselves accountable to a certain extent for what has been happening to us. Because again, they're only going to do to us what we have been allowing to happen for quite some time now. And people, especially the men of the community, if they're going to step up to the plate and say that they're the leaders of the community, when it's time for us to get these politicians' attention and let them know what it is that we want from them, we need the men of the community to be at the forefront of that and have a bullet point plan in place, letting them know that if these demands are not met, then don't look to us for support. Because like I said, time and time again, the politicians kind of feel like the Black community is a sure bet. And they know that as long as they come through our community selling us a dream and making us feel good, that they're going to get our support. And, it's very unfortunate, but that is a result of us being in a lowly position for such a long time in this country that we feel that any little bit of acceptance is enough. But time is running out for our community. It really is. And I think that we need to pay attention to how serious the situation is. Time is running out. Um, and I said this in a past live stream before. It's being projected by the year 2053 that there will be no wealth in the Black community. And again, I feel that obviously it's up to us to determine that that does not happen. But all of the projections are showing that our community is on a downward spiral. And after everything that our foreparents have been through in this country, after everything that they have, fought for in the best ways that they knew how, I think that it's very disappointing that it seems like we're just letting a lot of those things go to waste. I feel like the power is in our hands and we have such a strong capability to do so much with the power that we can, consolidate and put together as a community to demand what it is that we need. Because a lot of times we feel that we don't have the right to ask the politicians for these things. A lot of people say, well, why are you asking for handouts? And what people need to remember about this is that the politicians are here to serve the people. That's what they claim that they're here to do. So we need to hold them accountable and we don't need to feel like we're asking for handouts because you have to understand one thing. When other communities are looking to the government to do what it is that they need them to do to better their quality of life, no one is telling them that they're looking for a handout. They are holding the politicians accountable and making them do the job that they are there to do. So I feel like we have to get out of this mindset that we're asking for handouts and that we don't have to hold these politicians accountable because it is their job to take care of every citizen of this country. It is their job to see to it that certain policies are implemented within the community to see to it that all members of society are benefiting from this system. And we, for some reason, have convinced ourselves that we don't have the right to ask these politicians for anything. And, if we do ask them for something and we don't get it, we kind of just go back into our little spaces and wait for the next election cycle to come around. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of voting and seeing the community be in the same position that it's been in for, decade after decade. I'm tired of politicians coming through our community and, selling us the dream. And that's what's been going on for a very long time now. And I feel like it's time for us to step up and hold ourselves accountable and examine what it is that we have been allowing to happen to us for all these years. Because we have the power to get what it is that we need to make our communities whole. Yes, it's going to take work. Yes, it's going to take consistency, but it's something that can be done. But if we continue to convince ourselves that we don't have the right to hold these politicians accountable, then this is something that we're going to continue to see happen time and time again. What people have to remember is that there was a time in this country where the government was just handing out set asides for certain segments of society. I don't know how many people are familiar with the New Deal, but that plan was put in place for white members of society to get grants for the government to better their community, for them to get land, for them to get infrastructure. And the thing of it is that nobody called this a handout. It was simply the government giving a segment of the population that were in dire straits. It was the government giving them a hand up. Nobody criticized these people for getting, these policies put in place for them to be able to get these things for the government to better their community. But again, time and time again, you see when Black people step up and say, this is what we need for our community. And we feel like after everything that we have been through in this country, how we have been locked out of wealth for generation after generation, we feel that the government owes it to our community to help us get on a level playing field with the rest of society. I feel that it's insulting for people to tell us that we're looking for handouts when we're trying to hold politicians accountable. In the chat, Urban Country Film says, "What do you feel about the fact that the Republican Party doesn't even come to your community?" Well, the Republican Party, um, I will say this: for a long time, the Republican Party didn't really pay much attention to Black society, and I think that's mainly due in part to the fact that for so long the Democratic Party has been so loyal. I mean, the Black community has been so loyal to the Democratic Party, and we have put this stigma on the Republican Party that the Republican Party is a racist party. So a lot, for a very long time, Black society has not really been paying attention to the Republican Party. We've been throwing we've been throwing our support behind the Democratic Party for a very, very long time. Now, I do see that that is starting to change. So I do see that the Republican Party is starting to put more Black people forefront there, and they are starting to speak more to Black society. And I think that that is something that Black society needs to pick. We don't need to have loyalty to any particular party. We need to see which party is going to bring something tangible to the forefront for our community. We need to examine that. We need to see how it's going to be beneficial to us, regardless of what side of the aisle is coming from. We need to say, okay, these policies are beneficial to us. The Republicans have this on the table for us. The Democrats have this on the table. We need to compare and contrast, and we need to see what is going to be beneficial to us. There is absolutely no reason why we should continue to throw our support behind the Democratic Party. And again, we see our communities in the same conditions, and we've been voting Democrat at least we've been voting Democrat for at least the past 5, 6 decades now. And really, we're not getting anything from that. In the chat, Real Deal Radio says Donald Trump has done more for the Black community than any other president. Why haven't why haven't she mentioned him? Um, when it comes to Donald Trump and the Black community, what I see with the Black community when it comes to Donald Trump is that too many people have a knee-jerk reaction just to his name. When you mention his name, they kind of block you out. They don't want to hear anything that you have to say as it relates to Donald Trump. They have labeled him a racist president. So, it's very hard to have dialogue with when it comes to Donald Trump. I believe that they don't even look into his policies. And I'm not trying to convince anybody that they should support him. A lot of people have issues with him, and rightfully so. But I think that while they're pointing out the issues with Donald Trump, they're not paying attention to the issues with the Democratic candidates. Because the Democratic candidates, especially the frontrunner Joe Biden, he is very problematic, and he has done things that have been detrimental to Black society. But Black people are throwing their support behind because of their loyal support to anybody who is part of the Democratic Party. And again, I feel like we need to examine that because we are um, we are doing damage to ourselves and damage to our community by not seeing what is on the table of all candidates as it relates to the betterment of our community. We cannot continue this loyalty to the Democratic Party. We need to examine what everybody has to offer us. And since it's looking like it's going to be, you know, either a Democrat or a Republican that will get the chair, we need to hold Democrats and Republicans' feet to the fire to see what it is that they're going to be offering us. In the chat, Real Radio says, or is it that black people just want handouts and the Republicans aren't with the handout? Well, again, like I said before, as it relates to handouts, the people saying that black people want handouts, black people weren't saying that when other groups of people in this country were getting things from their government. Communities that were in dire conditions, how the black community has been in for several generations now. You know, when you think about what our experience has been in this country, there has been policies and laws that have been put in place that intentionally locked us out of certain markets so that we could not build the type of wealth that other communities have. So it is very problematic to me when people tell us that we're looking for handouts as if they don't understand what has taken place in this country and how almost every other community in this country has received some type of stimulus, if you would, from the government to help their communities get on track. I don't understand why it is that when black people ask for the same thing that other communities have gotten from the government, we're met with resistance and we're told that we're asking for handouts when we're simply just asking for the things that every other community in the country receives. I don't understand why it is that people have such an issue with us being able to be put on equal footing with the rest of society, but then they'll turn around and say that the way we're being treated has nothing to do with race. But when you look at it in its entirety, what other reason could it be? Because again, every other group of people in this country has received something that was specifically for their community and they get the type of pushback that black people get when they ask for something from their government. And again, we have to hold ourselves accountable as a community for this to a certain degree because we have been allowing this to happen for so long now. We have been allowing people to shame us into not asking for the tangible things that we should be receiving when we cast our votes. We get out here and we vote every election cycle. And again, we are not seeing our votes materialize into anything of any type of tangible outcome for our community. I feel that that is a disgrace. And I feel that we should not be voting like this any longer. I must say that I am happy to see that there are certain people that are saying that they're not going to continue to cast their votes for politicians who ignore our community, that they are going to hold them accountable. They want something in return for our vote. And that is what the transaction should be. But we have to get organized. We have to come together as a community and at least have something on the plate that we are going to stand behind and we are going to see through to the end. Real Deal Radio also says that the Dems been buying the black vote. If you could elaborate on that a little bit more, I'm not really understanding what you mean by if the Dems have been buying the black vote. Because again, I feel like the Democratic Party doesn't really have to do much of anything to get black people to get out and vote Democrat, regardless of if they're benefiting from it. And again, that has been how the Democrats have been able to get over on Black society for so long because they know that regardless of what happens, Black people are going to go out and continue to vote Democrat. Again, we're not even looking at what the other candidates are offering our community. You know, people can say that Donald Trump is racist, and I'm not going to stop people from feeling however it is that they want to feel because I don't have a loyalty to any presidential candidate. I don't have loyalty to any political party. I feel like the political party that is going to do right by me and my community is the political party that I will throw my support behind. And I feel that this needs to be the mindset for us as Black voters moving forward. We need to throw our support behind the candidate that is going to bring something to the table for our community. We cannot let people shame us into not requesting that we get something for our vote. This has been a tactic that has been used against us for a very long time, and we've been falling for it every election cycle. But again, it's up to us to see to it that we are going to be getting something for our votes. It's up to us to come together as a community and examine where we have fallen short and what it is that we are going to do moving forward, because we can't change the past. We can't change what has happened to us. The only thing that we can do is moving forward, and change the dynamics of the relationships that we are having with these politicians. Because again, like I said in the title of tonight's live stream, tacky tactics have been used against the Black community for so long to get us to get out there and vote. And we cannot continue these tacky relationships with politicians. We can't continue these tacky relationships with each other in the community. We need to send the message that we are a strong and unified people, and that we are to be taken as seriously as every other community that goes out there and casts their vote. I don't understand why it is that we think that getting in line and voting is going to be enough for us to get the type of results that we want for our community. Is simply just not enough, and we cannot continue to go down this road, or we're going to be revisited with the same things every election cycle, as we have been seeing happening for decade after decade. um, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up soon, but before I do, I just want to switch gears for a minute, because I've been seeing a lot of this happening on social media, and it's very frustrating to me. I have experienced this a little bit, within my own circles, and what I'm seeing is a lot of people severing relationships with each other over these politicians and over, the presidential election. I see people cutting off their family members, cutting off their friends, people who they've been knowing for years, classmates, and people that have been communicating with each other for quite some time. They're literally falling out and cutting each other off over these politicians. But what people have to understand about these politicians is that they're going to always play us in the middle. They're going to always make us feel like we have to choose a side. And at the end of the day, their interest is to serve what is in the best interest of what they want to have implemented for them to be in leadership. So I don't think that it's worth it to be falling out with friends and family members, because at the end of the day, these politicians, quiet as it is kept, they're not as divided as they would like to make it appear to the public. A lot of these people are hanging out with each other in the country clubs. A lot of these people are rubbing elbows with each other in different circles. And in front of us, they give the appearance that there's so much division. And to be quite frank, there's really not. They're just wanting their side to win. But at the end of the day, they'll still be serving that same unseen hand. So I would just encourage everybody to understand that you can have a difference of opinion with each other, but it's not worth falling out over these politicians. Um, in the comment section, Real Deal Radio says they will all be at the White Glove event breaking bread. Exactly. They get together and they have lunch, they hang out in these social circles. And, it's at the end of the day, it's just one big wrestling match. They put on a show for us, and then they go back to serving the unseen hand, as I said. And we're out here arguing and fussing and fighting with one another, cutting each other off, ending years long friendships over politicians who, at the end of the day, are going to continue to be politicians. They serve their masters, they will play the game and keep up the appearance. And I feel like it's time for us to stop falling into that. We need to get what we can get from these politicians, and we need to go on about our lives, because at the end of the day, they are going to go back to Washington and continue being politicians. That is what they do. And we can't be out here having our relationships falling apart when at the end of the day, these people are going to do what's best for their handlers. And I think that that's something that we have to take into consideration when we're arguing with each other over, different political points of view. I always say that I don't have to agree with what you're saying, but I can still respect you as a person. And I'm going to continue to stand by that, because for the most part, I understand how these politicians play. And I'm not going to fall into that game any longer. When I woke up to how things go, I see it for what it is. I try to vote for candidates that I feel will have the best interests of my community in mind. And I feel like that's what we need to do. That's the only thing that we can do at this point, because politicians will be politicians. And at the end of the day, we're going to go back to our lives, and we need to get along with our friends and our family and allow them to just do what it is that they're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here, guys. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I hope that this message was received well. Again, if you're going to throw your support behind any candidate from any political party, please make sure that their agenda is beneficial to you and your community. Make sure that their agenda will be beneficial to you within your own life and beneficial to you and your family. Don't allow people to shame you into leaning in one direction or the other, because the days of voting like that, especially when it comes to Black society, the days of voting for someone just because you feel like you should, those days are over. We have to begin to take ourselves a lot more seriously when it comes to voting. If we, like I said, if we're going to use that as a tool to get something out of these politicians and to get something beneficial and tangible for our communities, we're going to begin to have to treat voting like a business transaction. What can you do for me? What am I going to benefit from giving you my vote? Before I go, I just want to give a quick shout out to the sponsors. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, if you are new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Please go ahead and visit my website, shellyspeakstruth.urbancountryfams.com. Again, that's shellyspeakstruth.urbancountryfams.com. Please support our sponsors, buhosting.com. Again, buhosting.com for all your website needs. Please go ahead and check out that website. And again, just take everything in tonight's conversation into consideration. That is why I'm here. I'm here to, provide my insight and share my point of view with the community. I hope that, these messages are received well. And I hope that you all can take something from tonight's message, and we can begin to break some of the cycles that we have been allowing to be perpetuated against us for quite some time. Again, thank everyone for tuning in tonight. Visit my website, subscribe to the channel, please share the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.